Hi guys, here we are at Groove Synthesis with the Third Wave, as well as founder Bob Coover and Andrew to his left or right. So I'm visiting today and very thankful for them to give me this time. Want to learn a bit more about the synth and share it all with you. So would love to ask you guys just a couple questions about Groove Synthesis and obviously the Third Wave and such.
Absolutely.
So I guess the first thing is, how did Groove Synthesis begin?
Yeah, so Groove Synthesis, I do the DSP, still do the DSP for sequential, and this was something that I'd always wanted to do as far as doing something that sounded similar or maybe exactly like the PPG 2.3 or 2.2. And I actually approached Dave with this several years ago and said, I'd really like to do this. What do you think? And he said, well, not really interested, but, go for it. And so I said, with that naive notion, yeah, this will take maybe a year, maybe two at the most. Well, 3.5 years later, we're just finishing up. But this is, of course, a labor of love and something that we're doing in our spare time while we all have day jobs, and so there you go. But that's how the whole thing got started. This, of course, does much more than a PPG, but we'll also do a PPG.
So I'd love to learn a bit more about your backgrounds, sort of what your work history has been before Groove Synthesis and work in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've had a recording studio and used to do songwriting for a publisher down in LA. Then got into DSP and worked at Digidesign. Now everybody knows it as Avid, but I still call it Digidesign. Went from there to Grace Note and did audio fingerprinting and what have you. And then now I'm at Apple doing spatial audio. So long time in that. During that time frame, I met Dave Smith and started doing his DSP right before he was conceiving of the Prophet 12. So the Prophet 12 on forward are items that I've worked on with him. So that was about 2012 time frame on forward. And then, thank goodness, met Andrew at Grace Note, and this man is quite the programmer. I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so I never dreamed, in my wildest dreams, thought I'd be working on the synthesizer until I met Bob at Grace Note, he was doing DSP. I was doing more like metadata, sort of data engineering. And I've always been interested in synthesizers and music in general, but I had a DX7 and Bob would come visit me and call me Mr. FM. And yeah, he showed up with a laptop with the beginnings of this project, and we kind of just decided to turn it into a real synthesizer.
Nice. So I have to ask, what was the inspiration for the Third Wave? Obviously the PPG is the inspiration here, but why the PPG? What was behind that decision?
Yeah, the PPG, well, so there were two synthesizers that I've always loved in the past that sound very unique. There's the PPG, and actually there's the sequential Prophet VS. The Prophet VS is not a wavetable synthesizer per se, they call it vector synthesis, but the main thing with both of those is that they have this artifact. Most people think, oh my God, it's digital, it's got aliasing. Well, no, it's actually got something different called imaging. And its images of the frequency repeat themselves because they're running at such a high rate. That's a big technical description for saying it's got this special kind of ringing that you get, especially in growling, that you get with low notes. So it's not aliasing. It does alias as well, and it sounds dirty, and there's lots of stuff that aliases, but it's got these other things. Doesn't use interpolation. There's various things that make it sound unique, and I'd never heard anybody, beyond that Microwave 1 ever do anything like it. And the Microwave 1 was long out of production when I was talking about doing this again. So that was the inspiration from that part of it, and wanting to do something that sounded like that again, that you could actually go out and buy and use, and that didn't require an electronic technician to keep running. That's the other great thing about the PPG. It sounds fabulous, but the bad thing is that you always are fixing it. So I've got 2 of these to make one of them work usually.
How many times did the PPG break during this process?
Oh yeah. Thank goodness there are some great repair people out there, including somebody I know at Apple, and also the folks over at Virtual Music in Austria. They've had the cards in one of these also.
Oh wow.
But that was the inspiration for, could we make something that sounded like, or very close to the original way that this sounded with those artifacts, but then could we do a bunch of new stuff with it as well? Who says that a wavetable has to have all that weird stuff in it? It can be DSP correct. So the user waves, as we're calling it in here, those are sampled at 96 kilohertz. They're properly anti-aliased, the whole 9 yards. And you can still do some of the stuff that we're doing with the PPG with those. Like for instance, I can turn the interpolation off and you can not smoothly walk between the tables if you want. But the other thing that I wanted to do, because this has always been hard, if you think back to any hardware samplers or anything, when you sampled something, it took forever to finally map it to a note. If you were going to make a wavetable, it takes forever to do each one individually. So the other big thing that I wanted to make sure we had in this one is the ability to automatically take a recording and just make a wavetable. Not have to sit there for hours and string them together and figure out what you're going to do. So part of the inspiration was to recreate something that I loved and that nobody was doing anymore. Part of the inspiration was to make something new and that I wished somebody had done, and that people, there's a couple of software synths out there, like Serum, for instance, that do something similar, and they will help you with that making of a wavetable, but there's no hardware synth out there that does this stuff. So that was the other bit.
Awesome. And so with the inspiration with the PPG and obviously its history, were you able to collaborate by chance with Wolfgang Palm, or?
Unfortunately, we never got Mr. Palm to, as they say, answer the emails. We've got some people that work with us that knew him, but I think he's completely out of the game at this point. I could be wrong.
Right.
I know that Brainworks bought out the name, the PPG name, and we actually met them at NAMM, and they came up and said, "Oh, we love this. Can we maybe make a software plugin out of it?" So we might be talking to them about that, but there's a lot of hardware in here that you just couldn't directly recreate. But no, we weren't able to get a hold of Mr. Palm directly, although he's one of my childhood heroes, so there you go.
Nice. And just take me through, or take us through the sort of design process of the synth from sort of the beginning. What was that like, and some of the challenges perhaps that you faced, or some of the innovation that you were creating from scratch? We'd love to learn a bit more about that.
Yeah, I should, well, I'm going to absolutely let Andrew talk about the challenges of getting the thing to work correctly in the hardware. But challenge number one, how exactly did the PPG work? Why did it sound the way it did, et cetera, et cetera? That was a lot of research. That was my father and I actually looking at an O-scope on it and trying to figure out what it was doing. And thank goodness there are some people that have written about it as well. If you search the internet, you can see some of what it does. So for the PPG mode on the third wave, that's recreated pretty accurately. The fact that he had taken a clock and divided it up and it runs at a really high sample rate and all that stuff, that was challenge number one, figuring out how to do all that. Challenge number two was what do we need in hardware to recreate this? Of course, the oscillators on both of these are digital, but then you go into an analog filter section and out it goes, and it stays like that the rest of the way out. So there was another challenge. But then let's talk about getting it to work on this hardware too.
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges actually was getting all of the 24 voices to come up with a design where we could feasibly run 24 voices, and the synchronization between all the microchips to make that happen. I would say that was definitely one of our biggest challenges. And yeah, just interfacing with the analog hardware. I don't know, without getting too technical, yeah, it wasn't easy. It was definitely not as easy as we thought going into it, but...
I'm glad Andrew is saying that. I had faith the whole time. No, because we knew that we wanted it to have a very full bottom end. We knew we wanted it to be completely crystal clear up to the top. If you're running in the user wave mode, or if you're running in the analog mode, that is to say the analog waveforms, which we'll go over later. But then do it like this with all the dirt and the grit for the PPG. So it's got all of that. It's actually got a little bit more bandwidth than the original, which is intentional because we wanted it to sound a little bit fuller.
Okay, so here we are looking at the third wave a bit more in depth. So I would just love to learn, I guess, first of all, an overview of the synth. Maybe you can take us through the various features and functions and some of the connectivity.
Sure. So the synthesizer is mostly knob per function. That was one of the goals, was we wanted to make sure that if you grabbed a knob, it was doing something and that you weren't having to menu dive. We're going to start over here on the left. It's 3 oscillators. So if you think about, again, the PPG 2.2 or the PPG 2.3, well, that 2 meant 2 oscillators. So this third wave, part of the name third, is 3 oscillators per note. So 3 oscillators here. They are either wavetable with the original PPG mode, which you see a P here for the P19, for instance, for that wavetable. We also have user wavetables. Whoops, and I just switched the program rather than the wavetable, excuse me. So you get into these U's, and now we're in user wavetables. Those are the ones that we can make automatically for you with the wavetable maker. And these are correctly anti-aliased at 96K, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the modern ones. And then if you go all the way to the end of the wavetable selections, you get into the analog. And that's analog modeling with spline interpolation. Again, proper modern day anti-aliased modeling. So it covers a lot of ground, but it will, again, start back here with the PPG stuff. Next, you've got 24 voices, so you've got 24 analog filters in there. Also the 24 state variable filters, which are very similar to SEM. You've got 4 ADSR envelopes. So you've got your normal filter amplifier, and you got 2 that float that you can assign to anything you want. We've also got a wave envelope. So the wave envelope up here, that actually will let you, via linear mode, walk through a wavetable to whatever position you want and walk to the next spot in whatever position you want. So it's time and position. That's a 6-stage envelope. Any of the envelopes that are ADSR or the wave envelope can be assigned to any destination that you want, so they don't have to do exactly what I'm saying here. They can do whatever you would like. In addition to that, we've got both sync on the oscillators and FM. So linear FM on all the oscillators. That goes in a ring, so oscillator 1 would be modulated by oscillator 2, oscillator 2 by 3, oscillator 3 by 1. So all of those are possibilities in here. In addition to all of this, we've got, gosh, I'm forgetting the number. Is it
16?
We've got 16, but how many total destinations? It's in the 40s.
No, there's 119 different.
119, good grief, I'm way off, excuse me. 119, anyway, there's enough destinations in your mod matrix, as it were, to tie yourself in a knot. So I used to love, and still love, stuff like the Oberheim expander, the Oberheim matrix 12. This takes it to yet another level. You can go much further than that. What else? We've got the sequencer, which Andrew was intimately involved with. And this sequencer, unlike most that you would see on a hardware synthesizer, is actually very much built like a drum machine sequencer. So it's pattern based, and you can string those patterns together into a song. You can quantize as you record, and it will remember previous quantization levels and allow you to go back to those. There's a total of 24 patterns. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 24 patterns. Each pattern can have as many as 32 measures in it. Mm-hmm. You've then got your normal arpeggiator that you see in a lot of synthesizers, but of course this one has one as well. And then the big thing is 24 voices. So you've got 4-part multitimbral here. You can do a stack that has 4 different parts in it, and you've still got a 6-voice synth when you're all done.
Wow.
So it's crazy as far as that goes. Or you can run it in multitimbral mode, and you can play a sequence that has 4 different parts in it and make a song out of that, however you want to do it. We've got the panning mode that would have been on the original PPG, which is every other voice, or we've got other panning modes in here that allow you to set voices where you want in the field, and or completely hard pan different voices in here. So it's binaural audio. So you can set that up so that you've got a binaural sound field, and we'll give you an example of that in a little bit here. And I think I've covered most of it. The effects, yes, oh my gosh. I wrote the effects, I'm forgetting about that. So each of those 4 parts has 2 effects. So even if you're running in 4-part multitimbral, you've got 2 effects per part if you want them. Now, a lot of the sounds that we're going to play you don't have any effects on them, so those aren't necessary, but you've got effects available per part, and again, 2 per part all the way out.
Fantastic.
I think that covers most of it.
So cool. So you've got the analog low-pass filter. What type of filter is it? SSI?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it is a 22...
I'm gonna get it.
I think it's 2240.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We went through both of theirs, but I believe it's a 2240.
Okay.
Yes.
And the multi-mode SEM, is that digital or analog as well?
This one is digital, and it's one I'm kind of very proud of, because most of the digital filters, they fall off when you get really up high, which of course a multi-mode filter would do, and they are not accurate as you get close to what's called the Nyquist frequency. This thing's accurate all the way up. So most people that have played it have asked, or they didn't realize it was digital. They thought it was analog.
Nice. And can those be routed, like serial, parallel?
It's always going in series. You're hitting the state variable first, and if you've got the cutoff completely open, mm-hmm. you're completely 100% bypassed. It's not even touching it. So you're going through the state variable, then you're going through the analog low-pass filter. You've also got a hardware bypass on the analog low-pass filter if you want.
Got it. And the 6-stage wave envelope, how does that sort of work, if you wouldn't mind maybe showing us an example?
Let me give you an example here. So all that movement that you're hearing, including that getting down to nothing and now coming back, that's it walking through its wavetable. And there it goes again, and it's looping, and what you're hearing is that looping, and then if I release it, now it's still walking away.
Right.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
If you want a really wild example of this, because this patch is pretty much made with nothing but the wavetable walking. Where's that Rube Goldberg patch? There it is. Okay, so this is just a single note, and if you look at the wavetable here, it's got this pattern for oscillator 1. I think this is different for each oscillator, so I'm going to hit each oscillator. Yeah, this oscillator is doing a separate pattern, and this third oscillator is doing the same thing as 2. But 2 and 3 are doing something different than 1, and then if I play this one, you're going to hear... So I'm not doing anything here, I'm just letting the wavetable envelope walk through that wavetable.
Right.
But that you are getting, and they're independent as you re-trigger each note. But all that motion that you're hearing is that wave envelope and walking through this particular set of wavetable.
Yeah, and each one has its own envelope.
Yep.
Each oscillator. That's incredible. Fantastic.
This is if I can find it, there it is. Okay, so this one, he's got, it's kind of a stack and it's kind of not. He's got two of these are duplicates of each other in stereo, and then he's got another set here. But because we've got 24 voices and 4-part multitimbral, you're able to pull stuff off like this. So you've got, now there's no effects on this. It's just this huge monstrous sound that you're getting because you've got those 4 parts available. Right. In this case, we're not using it like multitimbral, right? We're not using different MIDI notes on each one. We're using it as a stack. So is it capable with just a single patch? Absolutely. Most of what you've heard so far has been single patches, but this is an example of a stack, and it's a pretty big stack, and it's a pretty big stack without effects, right?
No, yeah,
so it
absolutely.
sounds, yeah,
It's huge.
big anyway. Okay, this is an example that Mattia, one of our sound designers, put together, and this is using it more in multi-timbral mode now in this case. So it's not stacking, it's actually playing separate parts on the sequencer. And if I hit play on this, if we go over here to multi-timbral, this lays out the volumes of the different parts. So I'm going to take this, for instance, down, and I'm going to take the bass down, and you're hearing that is what's left. So you've got these, in this case, a stack doing this pad that you're hearing. You've got a bass going separate, and these are all different tracks on the sequencer. There's the bass again, and then there's this tinkling part that he's got up at the top. So these are all different parts. And that's, you know, that's another one of those things where it used to be the case that you could do this stuff on a synthesizer without having to have a computer attached. Well, that might be a little old-fashioned, but I think it's really cool that you could do something like this with just the hardware synthesizer in front of you. Okay, so the sequencer is pattern-based, somewhat like a drum machine, and you've got quantization and everything else in here. Andrew did a great job of getting this up and running. And what I'm showing you here on the screen, if you want to come down here, we have got actually that's the arpeggiator. If I'm going to go over here to the sequencer, and we're going to bring this tempo way down, and I brought it too far down. There we go. And we're going to give it 4 measures, and we're going to record a part with this. So I'm going to put quantization to 16th, and 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that should come back around for us. Yeah, there it goes. And if I'm playing, you know, anything else, keep going. So. Hopefully I stayed in time. If I didn't, you're gonna hear it. Good. Okay, and then you can erase parts. So you can add other patterns. You've got a total of 24 different patterns that you can do. This is pattern 1. Link those patterns up with each other and make a whole song out of it. So it's going to have a song mode as well. That's the last feature that we're finishing up right now before we're about to ship. You see this is pattern 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, you can keep going. You can add as many of these as you want. We did one with 4 measures, but you can put it all the way up to 32 measures if you want. Yeah. And the quantizations, as I said, you can change this, and heck, if I put it down to off, it's probably going to show you a little bit of the slop that I just played. Yeah, now it's not very tight. But it'll undo itself. That's the point. Now it's back to 16th notes.
And parameters can be modulated via this sequencer?
Yeah. Sorry about that. So
correct?
I forgot about that. You can also record parameters. So if we play this one again, I'm going to put it back in record, and we're going to put parameter record on. So here we go. Okay. It should now be playing with that cutoff. There it goes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. And pretty much anything on the front can be modulated. Is that through the sequencer? Is that possible?
Yes.
Yeah. Everything that you see up here can be recorded.
Oh, okay. Perfect. And what types of effects are on board?
So yeah, with the effects, I've got this on a patch right now that's got no effects on it. Okay, and we're gonna go over to here. For the first slot, what it comes up with immediately after bypass is bucket brigade delay. So that's a delay, and it's a model of a bucket brigade. So if I bring the feedback way up on this, you're gonna hear what a bucket brigade would do as you're changing it. So it does that changing of the pitch and playing it higher pitch or lower pitch once you've changed the pitch. It doesn't settle down like a normal digital delay would. This works like a bucket brigade, so it's like walking through a series of capacitors.
Right.
Then we go to the stereo delay. That's just a normal delay, and again, if I turn the feedback way up, if you change the time this time, it settles itself back down. It doesn't continue to stay at that other pitch. So that's the second one. We then go to chorus. So that's without chorus. That's with. This one's already got a fair amount of detuning on it in the first place. We've got a phaser. You can hear that walking around on itself, yeah. That is a 6-part phaser, if I remember right. Flanger, a through zero flanger. So if I've got the mix all the way up and then change the time, you can hear what it's doing right now. If I go on to what is next, we've got distortion. Okay, so I don't know if this is the best example to show distortion on because it sounds a little distorted already. But if I keep this all the way up and then bring up. So it's going to be like doing, power chord. And that's a model from a rat pedal, believe it or not. And the next one is a Leslie speaker. So the Leslie speaker's also got drive. It's got a tube preamp in the actual Leslie speaker, and that's modeled here. And so this same patch. So there we've got that, and this has also got the horn spinning. So if I change the mod, we're going to speed up. You're going to get that same.
Nice.
There you go. So that's the Leslie. Then we go to ring mod. That's with any ring modulator. You've got control of the frequency. So I'm going to bring this back up to here. And now we're going to turn pitch tracking. So right now pitch tracking is on. So it sounds generally pretty good. Now you hear it's getting pretty atonal as we go from item to item. And then you can change the carrier in the ring mod also. So if we go to saw, it gets pretty wild again. So this first bank has got all those. Then if you go to the second bank, you've got a couple of other items. So you've got reverb. So I'm going to turn this off, the first bank, and we're just going to hear reverb. So this one is the room. I've got the mix right here. So that's what you'd think it is. You've got your reverb time. It's a really big room. And really short and small room. Okay, then we go to concert hall. The concert hall and the room are both models of a Lexicon 480L. So this one, again, you've got what you'd think. You've got reverb time, like a big concert hall, or all the way to something very small. You've got cutoff. You can hear it's totally shutting it down. We're getting it way up. And this actually does the opposite effect. It's high pass filtering, excuse me. So we're moving all of the bottom out of that reverb tail.
That's really cool.
So, and here we are back to where we were. So that is the second reverb. And the last one is something we call super plate. This is a model of a 224. This will go pretty long.
Yeah.
Go for multiple seconds out there if you want.
It's great for ambient.
Yeah. So there you go.
Nice.
It just goes and goes and goes. Again, it's got the same cutoff.
Awesome.
And then last but not least, I think we've got in here Echoplex. Yes. So we've got an Echoplex model. That's a tape delay. And this one's got a few extra parameters. So if I hit this one, so we've got the normal time, and you hear all the crazy stuff that it's doing as I change the time, just like a real one would. But then if I turn the feedback up, then we can get into the extra area. And what's happening is now it's changing basically what would happen with an actual, and you're starting to hear it ring and what have you.
It's feeding back.
Yeah. So this is what would happen with the real tape.
Wow.
Yeah. And if I come back to parameter 2, so I've got feedback, I'm going to turn that back down and it'll eventually stop. You've also got wow and flutter. You can hear that going on as well. Yeah. So that's the last of the models in there.
That is insane.
Yeah. So you've also got you can make the thing feedback on its own with the tape hiss. So there's tape hiss in there too if you want it.
Amazing. Cool. Did you want to maybe show us the sample intake?
Yes. Yeah. So let me get to that.
Okay.
All right. So what we're going to show you now is the Wavetable maker. And this can be done one of two ways. As I said before, you can plug a microphone or a line level signal into the back of the synthesizer and it'll record directly into the synthesizer. Or you can do what we're going to do here, and we're going to take a 96K wave file and we're going to drop that into the synthesizer via the USB connector right here. So if you come in here to the computer, you'll see that the third wave winds up showing up as a hard drive on your system. So you see this says third wave, which is hard to see. It's got 4 different folders, on it. And we're gonna drop a wave file into the audio folder. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna grab Groove Synthesis right here. And I'm gonna bring this up to the audio folder, drop it in, and it's copying it to here. And then what we're gonna do is on the third wave, under the global menu, if you haven't recorded it through the back, you're going to read WaveMaker wave file right here. So we're going to do that, and there's Groove Wave, and I hit OK, and there it is. So it shows up as a waveform in the Make Waves display, and we're going to hit Make Table. It's going to detect the pitch, search for waveforms, and building wavetable, and it's done. Okay, so that one was pretty quick. Where it shows up now is we're going to take and we're going to go to the very last waveform in the examples here, or in your selections here, is the one that was just made by the wavetable maker. So if we now turn off the wave envelope and play this, it's holding on that first part of the word, and as I walk, and you're hearing the words, and I'm walking through it backwards. And the original was just this.
Groove synthesis.
So that was what you recorded in there. So now we'll take that, I'm going to erase that one out of here.
Okay.
And we will, trash, we'll take one that Mattia gave us from his synclavier, and we'll try and make one with that one. So that's in there now. I'm going to go back to global, and I'm going to do the same thing I just did, which is read wavemaker wave file. And there's the synclav, and we hit OK, and it will bring that one in as well. Now, that one is going to be pretty loud if I remember right. And it's also pretty long, as you can hear. So I'm going to take that, and we're going to bring you can take the start or the end point of the file and adjust it before you make your wavetable. So I'm going to bring the end point back to here, somewhere in this range, bring the start up a little bit, and then I'm going to do the same thing that we just did, make wavetable. So there it goes. It's detecting the pitch again, searching for waveforms, because it's got to make 64 of those. And then after it's done searching for waveforms, it's going to go to building the table, and you're done. Now, this patch that we had set up should still be on the last of the wavetables, which is the one that we just made. So it just took the groove synthesis wavetable that we made, and it replaced it with this one because we didn't save it. And I'm going to turn on the wave envelope, and we're going to see what we got. And there's that FM patch, and now it's coming back at us. And that's because of that wave envelope. If I turn the wave envelope off, I'm walking through it by hand there. And if you don't like what you've got, you can go back to make wavetables, and you can change, your selection, and we could do it again. But you get the idea of what you've got to do and how you can go back and how simple it is. That's the main point.
Yeah, absolutely.
How simple it is to make a wavetable.
Yeah, that's very quick and easy.
Yeah.
Fantastic feature. So I'm sure we're going to be hearing lots of new sounds with that.
Yeah, and that's the point. You can take this and you can put whatever you want into it. I'm giving you examples here that are pitched. It is set up so that it will take, you can talk into it, you can do non-pitched noise stuff into it. It will still make a wavetable for you. Will it sound great? Don't know. But it will make a wavetable out of whatever you present it with. And you can have your own unique set of wavetables in here. You've always got 64 user wavetables available, and you can pull those in or out at will. And that's one of the really cool features that we wanted to make sure this thing had, so that you actually had the ability to make this your own thing. All right, real quick, we're going to show you linear FM and basically just how to make a patch real quick. So all I've done was hit init patch, and then I've turned off both oscillator 2 and 3 so you can't hear them. Oscillator 1 I've got set to a sine wave, so nothing fancy. You can change this to be any thing you want. There's a sawtooth, but I'm going to go back to the sine wave. So sine wave, and then I'm going to go to miscellaneous area here, and you see it's got linear FM amount from oscillator 2. So we're going to provide some FM from oscillator 2, which we're not listening to. It's at a different pitch, and it's going to start creating sidebands as we add this in. So, and there they are. would do, for instance, with a DX7. But now I'm going to change these wavetables. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to make this one, instead of a sine wave that we're listening to, I'm going to go to one of these Buchla waveforms. Let's see, I think this one right here. And I'm going to go right back to that spot. So there's the Buchla waveform that we're listening to. And now I'm going to take that and I'm going to apply that same FM. And it gets a lot gnarlier, as you can hear, because we're not doing it sine wave to sine wave, we're doing it sine wave to a Buchla wave. So, and you can take that, and you can also move that through the wavetable to get FM wherever you want in that wavetable. So
That's crazy.
yeah, so that's pretty cool too. So can you modulate the filter with the oscillator?
Correct.
Yeah. You
okay.
can absolutely do that.
Yeah, each oscillator can be a separate modulation source.
Yeah.
So
And you've got, I forgot to say that when you were asking about the features too, for shame on me. We've got 4 LFOs as well. So you've
4
got
LFOs.
4 low frequency oscillators as well.
And
Those are also modulation sources.
they're polyphonic LFOs.
They're separate for each note. Yeah,
Nice.
they fire off differently for each note.
Amazing.
And you can reset them or not reset them. You can delay when they come in, all that sort of stuff.
And they go into audio rate as well.
They do go into audio rate, but if you really want to get into audio rate, like I said, you use one of the oscillators, which you can also do.
Cool.
So,
What's also on the back here? You've got a couple of
oh yeah,
connections here.
so yeah, a couple. So we've got phones, but then we've got, it's 4-part multitimbral, as we've said, so you've got 4 sets of stereo outputs.
Okay.
So you've got the 4 stereo outputs, then you've got the audio input. That was what we were talking about making a wavetable with, or you can run it directly through the filter like you would, I don't know, with I said Oberheim expander before, right? That used to allow you to plug stuff in and you go filter all the way out. Same thing here. You can go filter all the way out. You've got your pedals. You've got a volume pedal, so that's sustain. You've got that's sustain. You've got volume pedal, and you've got a second pedal input. Eventually, as an update, I'm not going to say for sure we're going to do this, but all of these inputs also can function. All these locations here can function as inputs. So theoretically, we could have 4 inputs going at once. 4
Wow.
audio inputs, that is.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But that's not going to be in version 1 that goes out the door in a couple of weeks. We've got MIDI in, out, and through, as you would expect, and then we've got the USB. And you've already seen us using the USB in the Wave Maker.
Right.
So that is it as far as the back, unless you want to say it's got an on-off switch.
Okay. Well, sort of just a few things here. What's next for the third wave? Or I guess you're always developing features and things like that. If you want to elaborate on anything around that, or if it's top secret, that's okay too.
No, that's fine. We will have updates to this. Some of it will be improvements, like maybe to the Wave Maker. Some of it will be potentially, if we have the time, to add those features, like the fact that those hardware inputs on the back actually can function as 4 separate inputs. That would be cool. So we do plan some updates there, and of course, any bug fixes that get out in the field with a bug. And then what's next? Well, what's next? We've talked about a couple of things. Some of it's top secret, but you will probably see more hybrids where you're running some kind of digital front end and analog back end, like what this is. You've also, you heard me talking earlier about machine learning. I think we're going to do something with modeling and machine learning in the future, somewhat similar to what, one of the things that interests me is the Google Magenta project, and they've got something similar there, but this would be in hardware. So
cool. And are you really going to mostly focus on digital and wavetable synths, or do you think maybe you'll branch into other sort of types of synthesis? Or
definitely other types.
Yeah.
This is really great, but we don't want to beat a dead horse.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. The next one might involve machine learning. could involve something to do with sampling, could even involve something to do not directly with the keyboard, but maybe drum machine-esque, but no promises. We're not sure yet.
So where can people learn more about groove synthesis and the third wave? You've got a website, obviously, social media, things of that nature.
Yeah, we've got the website, groovesynthesis.com. We've got all kinds of sound examples on there. They're not all the most up-to-date because we've been putting them on there for almost the last year during development. There are folks out in the field that now have these. For instance, our friend Michael Dietl has got a pre-production unit, and he's already put up how to make a wavetable. That went out, I think, just a couple of weeks ago. Other folks have got examples that they're putting up, and we're about to ship. So we're about to ship the synthesizer. I think as this first run goes out to the field, you'll see all kinds of people making stuff.
Right. And it's available in the US and elsewhere?
It's available in the US. We are just passing, so for your viewers out there that are in Europe, we are just passing CE. It looks like at the end of this week, the testing will be done. We're hoping to have that in place, and then we will be able to also sell in Europe. We've had lots of people inquiring, especially from Germany and England, but all over the world, but those two places in particular.
Cool. And can they buy it direct from you?
They can buy it direct. We've got right now the industry pricing, kind of upfront price of $37.95, which when you think about what you're getting, 24 analog filters, 24 voices, etc., it does far more than anything that's above that price. It does far more than anything that's even close to it, slightly below the price. That price will eventually go up as the parts are becoming more expensive and or as we open a dealer network. We've had several dealers inquire, so you will probably see it with a dealer with a slight price increase. But right now, you can still get it from us at this pre-production price.
Great. Anything else you'd like to share before we wrap things up? And here's
Shelby. We've got our own
mascot.
Yes, our own mascot. This is our Groove Synthesis Hound, and she's here to see what's going on in the kitchen.
Okay.
So we'll let her go through. No, just get in touch with us if you are interested. We would love to get these out to you. And they're already starting to go out into the field. And as we said, we've already got some out in the field making music. Watch Stranger Things, for instance. So
cool. All right, guys. Well, Bob, Andrew, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And to all the viewers that are watching this, definitely check out the third wave from Groove Synthesis. It's an amazing synth. It's at groovesynthesis.com, correct?
yes.
Perfect. Okay. We'll see you soon. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Take care.